Yeah, my name is Dee. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the grey sheet. I write them down, I commit them to my sponsor. I eat everything I've committed and I don't eat anything else in between meals. And my abstinence date is the 6th of April 2020. So I've just celebrated 10 months back to back, which is quite an achievement because I've been in and out of grey sheet for about 11 years and never had 10 months worth of back to back. I've had several 90 days. But I'd have like 92 days and then give it all up. So 10 months, by the grace of God, is a miracle. I thought I'd just share a little bit of background of where I came from before I discovered Grey Sheet and that I belonged to this tribe. I was born in 1964. You can do the math. My dad was a very emotionally detached man, a great provider for the family financially, and mum and dad had a very good understanding of each other's roles. Dad was the provider, mum was meant to be the emotional provider. So in actual fact, my dad was very detached and strict. He had a very cutting sarcasm. The trouble was, because I didn't know I was loved, every time he was sarcastic, I took it personally because I knew no different. My mum was a compulsive eater and a compulsive dieter, dreadful low self-esteem, and I felt very unprotected in my household. I didn't feel I could trust my mum, that she wouldn't tell dad everything. And he would know if I did the slightest thing wrong. In those days, the saying, wait till your father comes home, really meant be afraid when your father comes home. So I suppose my two living memories from my childhood, and I have very few memories of my childhood. I've got very large blocks that are missing. But I do remember my dad saying was that I spoke too much and I had verbal diarrhea. So I grew up thinking I couldn't say too much and that what I said was boring. And my mum would say to me, you can't buy friends, because my love language is and always has been encouragement and thoughtfulness. And that was seen as a way of buying friendships. It was actually my way of telling people that I cared for them. And it's actually those childhood memories that kind of warped the perception of who I am. And I didn't really, it's only now in recovery I'm beginning to realize who I really am and how I really think, because I learned very early on to weigh up a room and detach if someone was going to harm me, and work out what the person wanted me to say to make me likable to them. And that would mean I could speak to one person in one corner and be someone completely different if I met somebody else in the same room, to feel that I fitted in. So from an early age, food became not only a comfort but a reward. One of my very small memories from childhood is disobeying my dad, and I fell off a slide and I got knocked out. And the first thing I remember coming around was my mum holding a bag of little goodies because I'd hurt myself. And I kind of associated that if I was hurting, if I had something sweet, it would take away the pain. And I don't remember as a child food being such a focus to me, but I realized later on that when I had these sweet items, they helped to squash down the pain, and I didn't have to try and put into words how I was feeling. And I think because I learned to detach, and I didn't know, I couldn't go to my dad about anything, wasn't sure how my mum would be. From an early age, unfortunately, I did have sexual abuse in my background. Children at my school were involved in that, and I can remember going to a friend's house and being held down and abused by her brother and his friend. And when it was all over, I went home and said nothing. And that was my childhood. Various things would happen, bullying, all sorts of abuse. And I would detach. So I would go home and mum and dad would know nothing had happened. And that went on through my infant school and junior school. And then just before I started high school, my brother started sexually abusing me, encouraged by a friend to practice on his sister before he went for the real thing. And my brother and I were best friends. He was the only person I played with. because our house, nobody ever came to visit. We went to school, we came home, that was it. And it was very much an Englishman's home is his castle. And that was what my childhood was like. I knew no different. I had nothing to compare with until I met my husband. At the age of 14, my brother was 17. Unfortunately, he had a nervous breakdown and was diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic and was sectioned and taken into hospital. And during one of his sessions, they said he came home on a weekend break and said that it was coming out in his sessions what had happened between him and I as a child, and that he'd have to come out in the session. And I thought I'd tell my mum before it broke out in the family what had happened. And my mum's response to that was, I thought something like that might have been going on. And she hadn't said or done anything. And at that point, I thought, I can't tell anybody. I can't trust them. And I think it was that age I just lost who I was. I don't think I really knew who I was. And as I say, he died at 14. At 15, my friend invited me to church and I heard the gospel for the first time, and I gave my life over to God. And my higher power, I know, is Jesus. And he began healing some of those things that had happened in my earlier life. And I met my husband at church. I was 16. We started dating when I was 17. I asked my dad if I could stay out an hour later at night because my curfew was 10:30. I said, I'm going out with Mike. Can I stay out a day, an hour later at the weekends? His response was, you like it or you lump it or you get out. So on my 18th birthday, I moved out of my house and moved into a church flat. And then 2 years later, Mike and I got married. And in that intervening time, I lost all the what I would call puppy weight being at home. I went from I'm 5'7", or I was until a little while ago. I'm shrinking with the menopause, and I'm now 5'6". So I can't even be the weight I should be for 5'7". But so I got married. When the day I got married, I was in English size, a size 8 to 10, in American numerals, size 6 to 8. When I left home, I was probably a 14 to 16, American money, 12 to 14. And food never bothered me. Our biggest joke when my husband came round to the flat was there's never food in my part of the larder. We all had a larder, we had 3 shelves. Mine was always empty. I was always borrowing food off my flatmates. And I was very slim. It never occurred to me about eating overweight. I ate stupidly. I never learned how to eat properly. Sunday lunch for me would be something from the corner shop, and it would be packets and bags of stuff, but that would be my only meal for the day. So by the grace of God, I was slim. But the binging started shortly after we got married, and that was because I was so afraid of him leaving me. We had our first row. I did not know how to deal with conflict. I thought, that's it, he's going to leave me now. And that was the first time, vivid memory of baking something from a packet, eating the whole lot, hiding the box, and feeling somehow I felt peaceful. But it was when the lying first began, because I didn't tell him what I'd done. And every time there was something stressful that I didn't know how to deal with, I would do that. I'd start turning to the food. My hubby and I used to joke that we don't smoke, we don't drug, we don't take alcohol. So sweet things were our only vice. And we both like our snacks, or before GreySheet, both liked our snacks and things like that. And both of us would comfort eat. So fast forward, we got married. I was 20, 25, I had our first child, had the 4th child by the time I was 34, had risen up in weight throughout the pregnancy. I'd used the pregnancy because I thought, I'm getting big anyway. I must just be carrying a lot of water. But it wasn't. I was carrying a lot of weight. Very surprised when the baby came and the weight was still on. And with each pregnancy, I got bigger and bigger. And with each pregnancy, the secret eating got more and more. I was baking things for the children they didn't need, but mum would eat. I was a great person for entertaining. I would host all sorts of things at our house, bring and share, or me catering. But basically, when everybody left and my husband went to bed, thanks, my lovely, I see. When my husband went to bed, I would be the one clearing everything away, and I would be the dustbin. I would stay up hours after everybody had gone, glowing in the fact that I was such a good hostess and that I'd clear everything away, but actually I was the one that was eating everything. And fast forward, I had prayed that God would remove this from me. I had been for counselling. I had had prayer. I had confessed to God the sin of gluttony, and would you deliver me from the sin of gluttony? And all of that, nothing helped. And I felt such a failure as a wife, as a woman, as a believer, that I was doing all these things in secret. I was stealing food. I was lying about it. And the anger that built up in me, I never knew I could be so angry. I actually ripped a shirt off my husband's back once, literally popped the buttons, because I was so full of rage. And I just cried out to God for an answer. And the two words came to me: compulsive overeating. Nobody had told me about it before, and I Googled it, and up came GreySheet. And a very beautiful lady on this meeting at the moment had her share on the GreySheet pages about going to a marriage retreat and everything coming out about her eating and how she felt about herself. And the link that she knew the Lord and I knew the Lord, I thought, maybe this is where God has brought me. And I came into GreySheet, but I was looking to get slim. I came in for the vanity, didn't come in for the sanity. And it's taken me from 2008 until now to get to the point where I've completely submitted that this is God's will for me. It's the only thing that's ever worked. I've been for therapy, I've been for prayer, I've gone down for deliverance, hoping it was something that would just be taken out of me. I've tried all sorts. I've come and gone so many times in GreySheet, but the difference this time is I got to the point where I was Googling how to kill myself. I was prepared to go to our local New Forest, stick a pipe in the car through the window and just go to sleep forever. And I couldn't do it because I'd leave my family behind. My mum would then bury her last remaining child. I couldn't do it. I came back and I was willing to do whatever I was told to do. I keep it absolutely clean. I don't make any decisions now without checking it with my sponsor. I follow what is on the clarified GreySheet. I do everything that it says on the copyrighted GreySheet. I eat those portions. I eat the foods that we are clearly on the GreySheet. I come to meetings. I do service. I'm now doing the steps. That's my thank you, darling. I see 1 minute left. The steps has made the biggest change to me. It's the thing that's healing me from my past. The food was a symptom. The allergy is killing. I can never go back. It's not like a diet, where you come off, go on, go off, come on. This is for life, one day at a time, because it mentally will kill me. It's already spiritually killed me. It spoilt my relationship with God. And I'm now really working step 11 to seek through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God, because I was disappointed he wasn't the answer. I wanted him to take it all away from me. But thing is, you pray for an answer, God takes you there, then he leaves you to take the action. And I wanted God to do it all. And basically, he's brought me here, told me what to do. And if I'm told to do it and I don't do it, it's not God's fault, it's mine. So without GreySheet, without even the website and the messages that were on the website, I would not have found GreySheet. It's the only time I ever heard of GreySheet was finding it through Google. And coming on these meetings, thank you, my darling, coming on these meetings helps me to identify who I really am and who I can become. And if it weren't for the Zoom meetings, I wouldn't be absent in lockdown, because that is the thing that has really helped me to get a strong absence. And thank you so much for asking me to come, and thank you for listening.